The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on March 30th, 2022. Got a show about a sort of a hodgepodge current events. But before we get to that, let me introduce you to the panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. Well, what everybody's talking about, we'll just jump right into it. The slap heard around the world. I guess
Slapgate. So. That's what it's called, Slapgate.
Slapgate. Let's see if we can get an image up there. So the slap, in case you happen to be living in a cave and haven't heard about it already, actor Will Smith walked up on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock over a joke that he made, a very kind of a very plaid joke, I guess, about his wife's lack of hair, and kind of one of those types of jokes that if you're sitting in the front row of any comedy club in America, you don't know what's coming at you. And this was he essentially said, his wife Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, she was sporting a bald look, and so Chris Rock had said, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next G.I. Jane 2. And it was funny because Will Smith at first was seen laughing in the camera, and Jada Pinkett Smith was not seen happy. And suddenly, as Chris Rock's getting ready to segue into talking about the documentary that he was presenting, or the award for documentaries, Will Smith came marching up on the stage, and Chris Rock just thought it was, he wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm sure it wasn't violent. And he was smiling, and suddenly he was slapped in the face by a guy who was about a half a foot taller than him. And then Will Smith proceeded to walk back to his seat and then start screaming at Chris Rock, telling him to keep his wife's name out of his effing mouth. Right. So that's, just completely deranged. And, clearly one thing we definitely learned about this is that apparently Scientology doesn't do much for mental illness or rage. Will Smith is a prominent Scientologist, but this really brings into the forefront, though, an issue for libertarians that the last 5 or so years, we've seen a lot from the left being pushed that equates speech with violence. And this is the end to that. I mean, if you really want to equate speech with violence, here you go. I mean, somebody gets offended by what you say, they just walk up and slap you. So what do you guys think about this? I just think this is absolutely beyond the pale, but yeah.
Well, first, these pampered Hollywood types who believe that they're entitled to do whatever they want and whenever they want. What could get into Will Smith's mind that will make him think that it was okay to walk up on a stage and slap someone on public TV when 15 or 20 million people are watching? What will make him think that he has some kind of right to do this? It is because of the mentality of the left that says that words and violence are the same thing. Okay? I mean, sometimes, okay, I would admit that Chris Rock it was probably a dumb joke, probably insensitive, because Jada, Will Smith's wife, does actually have a medical condition that is causing her hair loss. So the joke was a little bit insensitive. I don't know if Chris Rock was aware of her disease or not. I don't know. But even if he made a dumb joke, that in no way justifies violence, that he have to walk up on the stage and give an open hand slap to this guy. Come on, this is crazy. But the left is doing this thing where they're turning things upside down in our society. Remember in 2020, when we had all that violence, our cities were burned down. You know, they didn't call it violence, you know. They call that mostly peaceful protests. So they took actual violence, made it into mere words, mostly peaceful, and we must accept that. And now Will Smith now have done the reverse, where he heard some mere words and he took such great offense to those words that he think he had to walk up and thing and slap the guy. But this is what is happening on our college campuses, where words and violence are being intertwined to mean the same thing. And when someone offend your spirit, we must get up there and do something about it. And this is what is being taught on our campuses. And these pampered Hollywood types think they're entitled. They're entitled to react in this manner when they're quote unquote offended. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Tim, you still there, or are you frozen? Uh-oh, looks like Tim's frozen out.
Frozen.
Okay, well, let me jump back into this. Can we get the image up again real quick? One of the things that I thought was absolutely beyond the pale, aside from the fact that he walked up and just slapped the host for a joke, then the audience didn't do anything. And I don't necessarily blame them at that point for not doing anything because, so many people thought maybe this is part of the act. This is entertainers. They're trying to make it interesting. Okay. But about 5 minutes later, or 5 or 10 minutes later, Will Smith was literally given an Oscar, and he came up on stage and he accepted it to a standing ovation. Now, yes. I can't imagine what kind of sheep these people must be in the academy that they're all going to sit there and cheer for somebody who is sitting there and who is just violent with one of their hosts. Literally just came up and committed assault, and he's crying, and he didn't even in his discussion that he was having, his acceptance speech for the Oscar, he didn't even apologize to Chris Rock at the time. He apologized to the Academy, but he didn't apologize to Chris Rock, which was absolutely absurd. And it's just beyond the pale to me that was what occurred. But aside from the fact that that the audience just went right along with him, and that was, I guess, the way Hollywood rolls nowadays. But the crazy thing was, we saw tweets in support of Will Smith outside of this too, and a lot of them are sort of pulling away their tweets in shame. But one of them was a congressperson, and that's Iana Presley. She had apparently tweeted out that she was in support of this. This is what she put out, and then she removed it. Fortunately for the internet, we got people who capture this stuff, so they can't just hide these terrible comments once they put them up. But she was mentioning her alopecia, I guess, like you mentioned before, Leon. And the idea, she said, shout out to all the husbands who defend their wives living with alopecia in the face of daily ignorance and insults. So, I mean, it's really, you're going to sit there and support somebody who just walked up and slapped a comedian in the face for a joke on television that you really don't know if he even understood the context. I mean, I don't know what they expect here. If, beyond the fact that it wouldn't have been acceptable in any case, but even if you do imagine that it's okay if you don't like the context, what's a comedian supposed to do? Poll everybody about all of their health conditions and everything else that come in the door? It's insanity. You guys have any thoughts on?
But this is the. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Jason? I'm sorry. Did I?
No. I was just throwing it out to you guys. I don't know, Tim. Did you want to jump in? We lost you there for a second. So, but you're back. So
I'm back. So these are the people we listen to tell us to stay home and stay safe. The same people. All their stuff that they come up with, everything from gun control to everything else. I mean, every little facet of whatever's going on, they want to throw their 2 cents into the mix as if they have more of an opinion than the rest of us. Sorry, I admire your work. Maybe I like to watch your movies, but it doesn't mean that what you say goes. So pipe down. But No, it doesn't give you the right to go up and slug somebody just because they say something. I mean, maybe it's admirable in a certain sense, sticking up for his wife. Maybe I don't know, but he was laughing and she was not. So maybe he was, sticking up for her. Right. Anyway, I don't know. Just not right. Didn't give him the right to do that, especially under the circumstances. And there you go. So.
But we even these things we have to be careful about, because Jason, you just raised the issue about the Congresswoman Iana Presley saying, "Oh, great job," or whatever the hell she said. But this is what is happening: is the endorsement of violence, in the name of because words were spoken that you don't like. We seen this endorsement of violence on our college campuses, as I mentioned before, and we saw in the riots the endorsement of violence in the name of social justice. We are seeing the endorsement of violence becoming a greater part of our society, and we got to be careful with this trend. It's an ugly trend that could lead us into a dark place.
Well, that's that's the value of principles, right? I mean, if we really understand the value of free speech, we don't have to worry about things like this. I mean, exactly. Quite frankly, we sit there and we say, okay, you know what? You say something I don't like, I don't have to be here. I can leave, or maybe the crowd can shun you, whatever. The bottom line is that you don't have to sit there and assault somebody just simply because they said something that you particularly in some tyrannical fashion decided that nobody should hear. So
sure.
Anyway, yeah. But speaking of crazy emoters, let's jump over to Jesse Smollett. We talked about him on the show before, but I just wanted to bring this up really quick because there's sort of an update, and I want to kind of get a sense of what you guys thought. But he went out of court, sort of throwing a crazy tirade about how he wasn't going to kill himself. He wasn't going to kill himself, and of course his attorneys put in an immediate appeal after sentencing so that he could avoid jail, which is what he's been trying to do ever since he was found out for lying. And as the judge even said, his name has become synonymous with lying. But anyways, he's on appeal, and so they've let him out so that he doesn't have to sit in jail. And I in some ways I can understand it. The court sentences 150 days in jail, and if he were to win his appeal, then what good would it be if he sat in jail the whole time waiting for that? But anyways, so that's kind of the status of the case. But I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on this. The idea, is special treatment maybe, or should they let him out while he's waiting appeal?
I bet there's a lot of other guys that have, that didn't even do what they are accused of, that wouldn't mind getting out on appeal themselves. And so, I from different people I've heard interviewed about the horrible crimes they were they were accused of committing, but they really didn't, or they weren't even horrible. I think there is a lot of prejudice going on here because it's a famous case. I don't know who this guy is, but I guess he's some big, huge deal or something. I don't know.
He's an actor. He's an actor and singer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah. I mean, shoot. Let him go home and take him home in a limo and make sure he's got 3 or 4 brand new girls waiting for him when he gets there, and a pool full of champagne. I mean, okay, I'm done.
From the very beginning of this case, this guy had been given special treatment. I mean, what this guy did was horrible, okay, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned. Because all he was trying to do was incite a race riot in America. That is what he was trying to do, okay? Because he said it was 2 Trump supporters beat him up in the street 2 o'clock in the morning when it was freezing outside. He went to get a sandwich. These 2 Trump supporters beat him up, and was a racist and homophobic attack.
Well, and Leon, let me just add too, he wasn't just trying to start a race riot. He was trying to do it for profit too.
Exactly. To give a better name for himself, for him to have a better chance on his show, Empire, which he was an actor on. So he did this for the most selfish of all reasons you could think about. Okay, But from the very beginning, he was always given preferential treatment. First of all, Kim Foxx, that loser of a prosecutor in Cook County, which is Chicago is in Cook County, that loser of a prosecutor dropped all the charges against him and let him go. Nothing happened to him. He did, I think, forfeit a bond or something like that. Then after that, they had a special prosecutor, investigated him, and then they charged him again. They prosecuted him. They got him sentenced 150 days in jail. And what happens? More preferential treatment. It is true, you can argue that, well, because of the fact it's on appeal, that he should be released while the appeal is ongoing. But for crying out loud, really? After all that we have seen of this man and all the things that he have done, I don't think he should be given that privilege. I mean, we even had some Michelle Obama's former chief of staff was calling people to make arrangements for him to get away from this crime and all that.
Yeah, I think Kim Foxx was in contact with somebody from Michelle Obama's team or something.
Yes. So given the circumstances of this case, this guy should not have been let out. He should not have been given this preferential treatment. If it was somebody else, somebody maybe a first, it wasn't as complicated as this, and they didn't do all the things that this guy wanted to do and stuff, maybe I could see it. But not this guy, not Jesse Smollett. That guy should be in prison, and I hope he ends up there eventually.
Speaking of,
I hope.
Oh, well, go ahead.
I just hope I can rely. If ever that happens to me, I do something like that. And I hope I can rely on my white privilege to get me off, like Jesse Smollett.
Well, that's a perfect segue to talking about privilege, because before we leave this topic, I just wanted to mention that you talk about the privilege that Jesse Smallett had. Can you imagine if you had gone and done such a heinous thing as Jesse Smollett had done? And, well, of course, he was trying to trick everybody, but suddenly you actually had the president and the vice president throwing tweets your way. And I just wanted to remind people of that. And maybe you could bring up the image again real quick. From Biden, what happened today at Jesse Smollett must never be tolerated in this country. We must stand up and demand that we no longer give hate safe harbor and blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's Joe Biden right there, rambling on. And here was Kamala Harris, too. This was an attempted modern-day lynching. No one should have to fear for their life because of their sexuality, of color of their skin. And I certainly agree with the sentiment, but you completely missed the target with the victim, which is pretty much everything that these people have done. But anyways, let's jump to good guys with guns now that we're all good and triggered.
Oh, yeah, we're all triggered. All righty. Well, this happened to a rideshare driver. Being attacked while picking up a fare is likely a rideshare driver's worst nightmare. That is exactly what happened to Scott Jaworski one winter night in Milwaukee, February of last year, 2021, as one man pretended to press a weapon, which turned out to be a cell phone, onto Scott's neck. The other attempted to drag the driver out of the vehicle. Scott's training as a martial artist, and this is also a plug for the company that kind of is behind the video, USCCA. They insure you for your use of a gun and provide attorneys if you should get yourself involved in a defensive gun use incident. But he's a member of them, and it helped him keep cool and respond with no loss of life. They also do training as well. Carrying a gun in his car may have saved this driver's life. In the YouTube video link, Scott Jaworski and his attorney, Amy Schultz, break down the harrowing tale with Concealed Carry Magazine executive editor Kevin Michalowski. The three discuss what Scott did right during the encounter, as well as what could have gone horribly wrong. So I'm going to read you what all this is just the on the video. They tell you what it's about. The video segment includes the following. Watch the shocking dash cam video. There's a picture of it there, of this attempted robbery. Meet the good guy with a gun. Hey, they even put that in there. And part-time rideshare driver Scott Jaworski. What sort of training had Scott taken before he started carrying a concealed firearm? Breaking down the dash cam video. What was going through Scott's mind when the attacker pressed a gun, in parenthesis, turned out to be a cell phone. He didn't know what it was, against his neck. How did situational awareness tie into this real life scenario? How long did it take Scott to realize what was happening when the two men surrounded and attacked him? What was the first thought in Scott's head during the attack? What guns did Scott have on him that night, and where did he conceal them? And Kevin reinforces an important part. Always use a holster and off-body concealed carry. Okay. Why does Scott choose to keep a gun concealed in his door panel? At what point did Scott decide that he would go for his gun? What made this rideshare driver decide not to fire his weapon as attackers? This is one of those. No shot was fired, yet the gun did its job. What actions did Scott take immediately after scaring off his attackers? What happened when police arrived at the scene? What they do with Scott's firearms? Kevin and Amy agree, be cautious about making any statements on record before consulting an attorney. Did the responding officer ask Scott any guilt-seeking questions while he was under duress? Attorney Schultz emphasizes how easy it is to inadvertently provide incorrect testimony immediately following a traumatic event. Your legal situation becomes exponentially worse the moment you decide to fire your weapon, even in self-defense. So Kevin says, if you have the option, don't shoot. Very good advice. Looking back on the situation, what would Scott have done differently? And has the attack affected Scott's day-to-day alertness levels or training? So those are the things they talk about in the video. And luckily, as you can see here, he's going to climb out of the car, and he points the gun at one guy. He takes off, and now the other guy bails out, and that's it. Over in about, 5 or 6 seconds, which is typical of these things. And nobody got hurt, yet a gun kept the good guy safe.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Amazing how fast it can all happen.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh, it happens real fast. Yeah, that's what everybody says. Happens super fast. So, yeah, no time to think.
Well, speaking of no time to think, we're starting to get near the end. I did want to talk in our we did have a Libertarian corner where I wanted to talk a little bit about the media in Ukraine. But I'll tell you what, let's jump into the Knucklehead Noise Patrol first because it's sort of a long one this time. And if we decide we want to go long at the end, maybe we'll do an overtime on the other. So let's jump to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol at this point. And our Knucklehead this time is Joe Biden. Common
surprise.
Yeah. It's even when we don't feature him on Knucklehead Noise Patrol, he still said something that week that's worth putting on every week. But this particular week was an absolute doozy. This last week or so, I just. The guy is literally trying to tell us how dangerous climate change is, an existential thing. And he's literally running around the world and maybe going to cause a nuclear war with all the crazy things he's saying. And, talk about an existential threat to humanity. I mean, it's this Mr. Magoo running around Europe, just spouting his mouth off constantly. But what I wanted to get into was just a few of the crazy quotes he said. And the unparalleled way that his administration is trying to clean up after him. So I've just never seen anything like it. Essentially, there was two major issues. One, he called for the removal of Putin in one of his speeches, and then the other was he said he would respond in kind to a chemical attack when asked. Right. So these are very, very serious things to commit to, when you're just saying. Speaking as a president, and for all the crazy things Donald Trump said, I don't think he ever said anything that even came close to these things. I remember he called little Kim, little rocket man, I guess, Kim Jong-un. But otherwise, I'm not sure if he said too many other things like that. But anyways, so during a 19-minute press conference in Belgium on Thursday, March 24th, Biden said that the U.S. response to Russian troops using chemical weapons or what he would do, and he said would depend upon the nature of use, and then he wound up saying, but he would respond in kind, I guess, which just crazy. Then I guess in a his national security advisor had to come out like a day later or something with a cleanup and say the United States has no intention of using chemical weapons, period, under any circumstances. So your subordinates are literally running around contradicting you as president of the United States. And in a speech a day later, Biden further declared regarding Russia, Putin, for God's sakes, this man cannot remain in power. Following that, the Secretary of State, Blinken, was forced to release a statement. As you know, and as you have heard us say repeatedly, we do not have a strategy of regime change in Russia or anywhere else for that matter. So I guess he's trying to cover himself unless Biden starts riffing on another country. But then Biden then told reporters at a White House Q&A after this that he said, I'm not walking anything back. After he was asked about why his administration is walking things back. Then he went on essentially to start walking things back. It's just absolutely bizarre. But apparently PBS's Lisa Desjardins said, do you understand why people would believe you as someone commanding one of the largest nuclear arsenals in the world? Saying someone cannot remain in power is a statement of U.S. policy. And then he said to her after saying no, and then she asked why, he said, because it's ridiculous. Nobody believes we're going to take down, that I was talking about taking down Putin. Nobody believes that, number one. Number two, what have I been talking about since this all began? The only war that's worse than the intended one is that's one that's unintended. The last thing I want to do is engage in a land war and a nuclear war with Russia. So just throwing his cards all out on the table, just spouting crazy stuff everywhere. Just crazy. Anyway, so you guys have anything to say about the cleanup on Iowa White House here?
I'm totally perplexed at this point. I don't know really who's really telling the real truth, because it's not like the United States has never been involved in regime change or assassinations. Okay, so if we're honest here, and if we think about not as many big countries because they all are in the big boys, good old boys club, but there's plenty of small nations around the world where we've been involved and still are in regime change. So that's not necessarily off the table. Again, I don't know how this guy can be let loose if he's lying or just making stuff up. So what I'm wondering, or is this all just on purpose so that everybody's in this state of perplexed, scratching their heads? What's going on here? Because I just can't believe this guy's just a complete, total buffoon, as much as I want to, and as much as I have evidence that he is a complete, total buffoon. This is just completely off the table. I mean, this is a slap in the face. Talk about a slap in the face. Talk about verbal abuse here, and this is a verbal abuse between two countries' leaders that and talking about them, one country talking about the other country's leader, both of which have nuclear weapons. It's like this could be so bad. And again, it's not like the United States is squeaky clean here. Mr. White, Mr. What's that cleaner? What was his name? Oh well. Anyway, what up, Leon? Mr. Clean.
I mean,
get you so clean your mother won't know you. Leon, what's up?
I mean, this guy. I mean, it is true that we do not have totally clean hands, as Tim said, but this man, this Joe Biden, is completely insane. Okay, his senility is becoming a danger to us, because this man is going to lead us into war. Remember, this whole thing started. I don't know if you guys remember. This whole thing started because this man said a minor incursion was okay if Russia crossed into Ukraine. A minor incursion. He said that, not me. I didn't make this crap up. So this man is going to lead us to war, because another thing that he didn't talk about, Jason, he went into Poland and he was talking to our troops, and he said, well, you'll see it when you get there, and some kind of nonsense like that, implying that he was sending troops into Ukraine. He said that. And
there's so much nonsense that comes out of them. It'd be a full. We don't have enough hours in the show.
Exactly. we might have to spend the entire 2 episodes trying to dissemble what this man is saying sometimes. But Joe Biden is not altogether here. Okay, he's the commander-in-chief of our military. He controls all the nuclear weapons and everything in this country. And this man does not have his full faculties together. And he's going to lead us to some dark place if we're not careful. When Donald Trump was president, they were talking so much, let's invoke the 25th Amendment. Well, here is a good example. We need it right now. We really do. Invoke the 25th Amendment and stop this man before he do something really crazy to us. Because his words as president of the United States really do mean something around the world. It really does. So we need to invoke the 25th Amendment. Please, God, please. I'm begging.
Well, Biden. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was just, Leon said we have to be careful or we're going to get into a world war. I'm just kind of wondering, what am I supposed to do about it? I mean, we can, I don't know. I'm supposed to be careful by writing to my congressman and saying,
call the congressman, write to congressman.
Would you
get a placard and get out on the streets and pull up your sign saying, invoke the 25th Amendment. We need it and we need it bad. That's what we need to do.
You want me to go down here outside the hotel and can I write the sign with a Mark Slot pen? Because that's all I have here in the hotel.
That's a good start. It'll be a good start.
That's a good start. Okay. All right. Invoke the 25th.
Oh, sorry. Well, Biden better be careful he doesn't say too many mean things about Putin because Putin's bald and Will Smith might show up and just smack the crap out of him. Unfortunately, we've gone way over already, so we'll have to do those other topics on another show. But thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next one. Until then, stay free.
Indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.